Maria Taylor is a simple woman, always devoted to the company she built, but an unexpected tragedy brought her face to face with Richard Ward, the arrogant and greedy CEO who always looked down on her and abused his power. Especially in an important meeting, the truth about Maria was revealed, changing everything and shocking everyone. Follow to discover a story full of drama, emotions, and unimaginable surprises. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next exciting stories. In the heart of San Francisco, among the skyscrapers and powerful spaces, there is a technology company called TechNova. Here, shiny cars and expensive suits have become familiar images. In the luxurious offices, big decisions are made every day, shaping the future of the company. To outsiders like Maria Taylor, it was all a strange world. Maria was a simple woman with tan skin and jet black hair that was always tied neatly behind her back. She was a cleaner at TechNova, pushing a mop from room to room. Everyone in the company saw her as a ghost in the hallway, never paying attention, never recognizing her. Only a few people, when needed, would order her to clean the corner of the room or wipe the conference table clean. But no one knew that Maria Taylor was the founder of TechNova. Many years ago, Maria handed over the CEO position to her brother, Mark Taylor, so that he could continue to run the company, while she chose to live quietly and unobtrusively in the background. She did not want to stand out, but only wanted to examine and observe everything from the outside to understand the company she had built. But day by day, Maria felt more and more the injustice in the management and attitude of the company's leaders, especially Richard Ward, the CEO. Richard, with his tall frame and always neat in an expensive suit, was the one who led the charge in maintaining arrogance at TechNova. He looked down on all the laborers, considering them as ghosts, unworthy of respect. Every time he passed Maria, Richard never looked straight at her. If he did, it was just a cold, contemptuous glance. And he constantly created situations to make Maria feel like she was nothing in this world. One morning, as Maria was cleaning outside the conference room, Richard suddenly appeared. He stopped, looking down at her with an arrogant gaze. He made no effort to hide his disdain. "Are you new here? You probably don't know this place, but I don't think you belong here," Richard said with a sarcastic, smirking voice. Maria just smiled gently, continuing her work. Although a feeling of indescribable anger rose inside her, she did not show it. He could say anything, do anything, but Maria knew where she was, and she would not let him hurt her. "You should be grateful to work at a place like TechNova. There must be many people out there who wish they had this job," Richard continued, not realizing that his words only confirmed his disrespect for the workers. Maria nodded politely, not responding. But inside, she felt like there was a fire burning. She wouldn't let others look down on her like this forever. In the following days, Maria continued her cleaning work in silence, but her eyes were always on the employees' every move in the company. She realized that, although many of her subordinates were very talented and diligent, it was leaders like Richard Ward who were the cause of the company's serious decline. Not only did he treat Maria badly, but he also treated other employees rudely, treating them as tools to serve his personal interests. He oppressed, harassed, and acted as if he were the only one who had the right to decide everything at TechNova. This not only affected the working environment, but also made honest and hardworking employees feel frustrated and unable to develop. Maria realized that if she didn't act now, the company she had worked so hard for would be destroyed by the arrogance and abuse of power of people like Richard. She couldn't continue to clean up the mess when the leaders were ruining the company from within. One evening, as Maria was cleaning up the departments and preparing to leave, she suddenly overheard a conversation through the conference room door. Although she couldn't hear everything, she could sense the unease in the conversation. She noticed Richard and a few senior executives were discussing some of the company's expenses, but their tone was anything but transparent. They were talking about money spent on side projects and some shady business practices. Maria knew that it was time for her to act. The behavior of Richard and the board of directors could no longer continue. If she didn't speak up, no one would be able to save TechNova. When Maria returned home that night, she sat down and called her brother, Mark. He was the one she had always trusted, the only one who knew her true identity. During this conversation, she could no longer keep quiet. Mark, I can't take it anymore. Richard is ruining everything. I've heard secret conversations in the company, and I know he's abusing his power. I can't let this go on forever. Mark was silent on the other end of the line for a moment before answering, his voice calm but determined. You're right. Now is the time for you to act, Maria. You've watched long enough. But remember, it's not just Richard who needs to pay the price. It's everyone else too. We need to clean up the company from the inside. When you do this, you have to be ready. Maria nodded, even though her brother couldn't see it. She felt his support. She could no longer stand aside from this game. An important decision had been made. She would no longer be just an observer, but a game changer. After the conversation with her brother, Maria felt like everything was ready to start a new chapter in her life. The decision had been made. She could no longer stand by and watch TechNova, the company she had built, be destroyed by people like Richard Ward. She would have to act, and this action could not be delayed. In the following days, she continued her work, but her determination was stronger than ever. She knew that what she was doing was not only to save the company, but also to bring justice to the nameless workers like her, whom Richard and the other directors had never respected. Richard Ward continued his rude behavior and abuse of power. One day, after work, he found Maria in a corner of the building. It was not the first time he had treated her badly, but this time he did not stop at just insulting words. Richard decided to go further. Listen, Maria, I think you need to know your place. This company is not for people like you. You are nothing but a cleaning job. You need to know that if you do not cooperate with me, I will make you lose your place here. Who do you think would hire someone like you? A cleaning girl who only knows how to submit. His words were like a knife cutting into Maria's heart. She could not believe that Richard could look down on people like that. But in his eyes, Maria saw complacency and conservatism, as if he had everything under his control. Maria stood up straight, facing him, refusing to be subdued. You may think I am worthless, Richard, but I will not let you continue to act like this. And I will not let you decide my future or the future of others in this company anymore. Richard was surprised by Maria's strong response. He never thought that a janitor like her would dare to resist him, but he just sneered, said nothing more, and walked away. Maria knew that at this moment she had to do something drastic. After that encounter, Maria could no longer stand the injustice in the company. She decided to take immediate action. She had to confront Richard, expose his wrongdoings, and prove that TechNova could not continue to develop under his leadership. She began to collect information, recording the wrongdoings of Richard and other directors. She secretly listened in on meetings, taking notes of conversations that she knew would be useful when needed. She could not let these people continue to manipulate the company she had built. One evening, after the company had left, Maria sneaked into the conference room, where Richard and several senior directors were discussing the company's financial plans and investment strategies. She stood outside the door, listening. What she heard startled her. They were talking about improper spending, shady projects, and the abuse of power for personal gain. Maria realized that their actions were not only wrong, but possibly criminal. She could not believe that everything she had built over the years was being ruined by these people. As soon as she stepped out of the building, Maria decided that she would not hesitate any longer. She needed to uncover the truth and confront Richard and those involved directly. Maria woke up that morning with a different feeling. Today was not just another day at work, but the day she stepped out of the shadows where she had been hiding for so many years. Her patience had reached its limit, and finally, she would no longer be an anonymous cleaner. With great determination in her heart, Maria completely changed her appearance. She abandoned the cleaning uniform and instead wore a pure white suit, simple but full of power. Her hair was neatly tied, and her face was lightly made up, exuding confidence. When she stepped out of the door, Maria clearly felt that today she was not just entering the company, but entering a new chapter of her life. She was no longer Maria, the cleaning lady. She was Maria Taylor, the owner of TechNova. When Maria entered the TechNova office, the atmosphere in the building suddenly changed. Employees on all floors couldn't help but look back, but no one recognized her. Maria walked straight to the conference room where the important meeting between the board of directors was taking place. Richard Ward, the CEO, was the first to notice Maria's presence. He stopped, his eyes wide with surprise, but after a moment, his look turned to mockery. "What are you doing here? Surely you're not lost," Richard said, his voice sarcastic. Maria didn't answer right away. She walked straight to the director's desk, standing firmly next to Mark, her brother. When she stood beside Mark, all eyes in the room turned to her. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. "I think it's time for me to introduce myself," Maria began, her voice soft but firm. "I'm Maria Taylor, and I'm the founder and true owner of TechNova." Everyone in the room, especially Richard, was shocked. Richard couldn't believe his ears. The person he once considered worthless was now the one holding the highest power in the company. All his arrogance suddenly disappeared. Maria didn't stop there. She turned to the members of the board of directors, who had never respected her. She continued, "You may not know who I am, but I've been working here all this time, under the guise of a janitor. I've seen it all. The corruption, the abuse of power, and the dishonesty in the very company I've worked so hard to build." Maria's words were a shock to everyone present. They never expected that Maria Taylor, whom they had ignored and considered invisible, was the founder of TechNova, and that she was standing right in front of them, exposing all the dark truths about the company. Richard, still surprised, started to try to respond, but Maria was ready. She didn't give him a chance to say anything more. "And now, everything is going to change," Maria said, her eyes unblinking, determined. The conference room remained in tense silence after Maria's declaration. All eyes were on her, but no one dared to speak. Richard Ward sat silently, his hands clenched into fists, his face with shock and confusion. He couldn't understand what was going on, but one thing was certain. Maria was no longer the cleaning lady he had despised. Maria looked at each person in the room, her eyes as sharp as a knife. She didn't need to say anything more. Everything she needed to say had been said, and now was the time to act. Richard's misdeeds revealed. Maria looked straight at Richard and began to recount the wrongdoings he had committed all this time. "You are not only someone who has abused your power, but you have also used TechNova as a tool for your own personal gain. You have harassed your employees, subjected them to contempt and discrimination. But not only that, you have run this company in a way that undermines everything we have built." Richard choked, trying to find words to retort, but every word he said was weak and meaningless in the face of the truth Maria had just exposed. There was no denying that what Maria said was true, and all he could do now was sit silently, waiting for Maria to continue. "You have turned this company into a breeding ground for corruption. But that ends today," Maria continued, her voice unwavering. Each word she spoke hit the minds of those sitting across from her like a hammer. Maria turned to the directors on the board, those who had been complicit with Richard or indifferent to the corruption in the company. She knew that these people could not continue to run TechNova. "For those of you who helped Richard or knew but ignored him, you will also have to leave TechNova today. We will not tolerate this wrongdoing anymore," Maria said, her eyes as sharp as knives, without hesitation. A deafening silence filled the room as Maria announced the dismissals. Those who were fired could not protest. They knew that Maria was not only the owner, but also the one who would rebuild the company from the ground up. Richard sat motionless, unable to believe what was happening. Everything had collapsed in one morning. Not only had he lost his job, but he had also lost all the power he had used all this time. Soon after Richard and the corrupt directors were removed, Maria began the rebuilding work. She met with the remaining employees, who were honest and dedicated, and began listening to their opinions. They all hoped that the company would return to the right path, where everyone could perform to their full potential. Maria understood that this was not an easy change. It required patience, strong leadership, and a long-term strategy to improve every aspect of the company. She began to cut out outdated processes, change communication methods, restore trust in employees, and improve the work environment to create a creative and fair space. In meetings with department heads and the management team, Maria always emphasized transparency and teamwork. She required that all decisions be made openly and with the participation of all stakeholders. Employees were encouraged to contribute ideas, and they felt like they were truly an important part of the company's growth. One of Maria's first decisions was to implement training and development programs for employees. She wanted to create an environment where people could learn and advance without the barriers of discrimination. The company began to change. Employees who had felt stifled under the old regime began to feel proud to be part of TechNova. They felt that the company now truly valued people. Under Maria's leadership, TechNova gradually revived. The important products and projects that the company was developing suddenly became more innovative than ever, thanks to the breakthrough ideas from the employees. Maria was not only a leader, but also a symbol of change, resilience, and determination. After a few months, the company began to see clear results. Revenues grew, and TechNova products received great attention from customers and partners. But most importantly, Maria became a role model for all those who have been looked down upon and put down. Her story is a testament to the power of perseverance and to the fact that change can come from small but determined steps. She has proven that when you believe in yourself and stand firm in your values, nothing is impossible. TechNova employees have not only found change in the company, but they have also found change in themselves. TechNova is now a company that people can be proud to work for, where fairness, respect, and innovation are paramount. Maria stands on the balcony of the TechNova building, looking out at the city, where skyscrapers reflect the morning sunlight. She knows that her journey is not over yet. This is just the beginning of a new TechNova, a stronger, fresher company where every employee's dreams can come true.